So there's a little movie that came out last year that I think a lot of you are familiar with. And I feel like it's been a long time since I'd seen a horror movie create such discourse, on social media. And I feel like this movie deserves a little bit more credit than we give it. So I'm back with an In Defense Of. Today, we're defending Halloween Kills. Evil Dies Tonight. Everybody, it's Nick at the Lost River Drive, and I'm coming at you this evening because I asked you guys on Twitter if you guys wanted me to revisit this In Defense Of series that I do. Most of the time it's Halloween movies, but I've done just divisive horror movies in general, and it seemed like people wanted to see that, so we're back again with it. Now, this is a movie that I feel is ripe for the picking when it comes to criticizing it. So I personally cannot wait to kind of get into this a little bit. But if you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a like. Let me know down below in the comments section what you think about this movie and if this rant I'm about to go on is going to change your mind at all. So without further ado, if you can't tell by the posters, if you can't tell by the shirt, and if you aren't someone that is privy to what I do on the channel or not familiar with it, I'm a Halloween guy. So naturally, when I go to do an In Defense Of, I want to pick one of the Halloween movies that I feel like gets a lot of crap. Today is Halloween Kills. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, okay? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I know there's a lot about this movie that people don't like. I know there is. First and foremost, I'm going to say something. I feel like this movie gets unfair criticism for things that aren't really its fault. And what do I mean by that? Well, Halloween Kills had a lot of expectations. It was announced as the middle part of a trilogy. It was billed as being what it ended up being. I feel like one of the biggest pitfalls for people with this movie were expectations. And I don't know why. Because first, I just want to address what were the expectations for the middle movie in a trilogy. Go back and look at The Empire Strikes Back. Go back and look at Scream 2. Go look at some of these middle movies and trilogies. Did you expect finality? Did you expect this big, operatic, dramatic film? Most of the time, the answer to that is no. Although The Empire Strikes Back is definitely a perfect example of drama and just, high stakes and massive scale. But I mean in the sense of these movies usually leave you wanting more and make you feel unfulfilled in some type of way. And Halloween Kills does that in spades. So that criticism of it, that's not the filmmaker's fault. I mean, it is in a way because they planned on this being a trilogy, but that's just middle movie syndrome. I mean, really, if we're going to call it anything, it's just middle movie syndrome. It is what it is. I think tempering your expectations for this movie was probably the best thing going into it. I did that. And that's a cautionary tale because of Halloween 2018. You guys know I've warmed up on Halloween 2018. It's not one of my favorites, but I've warmed up into saying, it's a good movie. It's a solid movie. It does what it needs to do. It's effective enough, yada, yada. But my expectations were through the roof with Halloween 2018, where I left the theater feeling kind of unfulfilled. I kind of felt like I had put so much together in my head that this movie was going to meet this, and this criteria. And it just didn't. And that doesn't mean it was a bad movie. It just means that I maybe needed to stop getting ahead of myself. So fast forward 2 years. Well, no, it was 3 years. Yeah, 2021. Fast forward 3 years, Halloween Kills comes out. I've learned my lesson. I tell myself I'm not going into this with any expectations except for the fact that I know this is not going to be the end. Michael's not going to die. Laurie's not going to die. Give me what you got. So expectations should have been tempered, I feel like. Another thing, too. Can we not appreciate the iconic portrayal of Michael Myers by James Jude Courtney? I mean, so many of these Halloween films in the franchise, as fans of the Halloween franchise, we complain about some of these movies, and one of the biggest reasons for complaint in some of them is Michael Myers' portrayal. Look at Halloween H2O. The mask and the portrayal of Michael really drag that movie down. And with a character that's as important as Michael Myers, if you don't nail that, you're not going to nail your movie. So I think that we're not putting enough weight into the portrayal of Michael as much as we normally do with some of these movies, and I feel like it's a little unfair to a degree. Because if you're going to fault a movie for the portrayal of Michael and say that's the biggest reason the movie fails, then why can you not praise a movie and say the movie succeeds, although not in every area, but in the portrayal of Michael department? So I digress on that one, but I feel like that needs to be talked about because James Jude Courtney is fantastic. Another problem people had with this movie, the lack of Jamie Lee Curtis. Well, all I saw on the internet after Halloween 2018 for 3 years leading up to this movie is, I want less Jamie Lee. I want less Jamie Lee. I want less Jamie Lee. Well, we get less Jamie Lee, and then people use it as a reason to disparage the film. Well, we didn't get enough Jamie Lee. This is supposed to be Jamie Lee and Michael's story. It's not, though. So I understand. I was one that wanted more Jamie Lee, actually, believe it or not. I was cool if they were going to move away from her, but then I walked away from the movie. I'm like, damn, I wanted more Jamie Lee. But it's not a con for the movie. Like, it didn't take me out of the movie. It's just like, man, I could have gone for more JLC, you know? So, but here's the biggest problem people have with this movie. The dialogue. And don't get me wrong, some of the dialogue is awful. I mean, it is bad. I will give you that. But dialogue doesn't make or break a film for me personally. It may make or break a film for you. That's fine, but it does not make or break a movie for me. Anthony Michael Hall as Tommy Doyle and his acting as being over the top. I don't think it was over the top. I think he just really wanted to portray this traumatized, angry, vengeful adult version of Tommy Doyle. Whether you think he hammed it up a little bit too much, that's fine, but he did not perform poorly. You know, with the material he was given, I thought he did well. The Evil Dies Tonight thing was so overplayed, but, you know, when he says it, I don't really have as much of a problem with it. It's when you get these weird townies that are like, Evil Dies Tonight, that I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. That's when I have an issue with that line. It's not so much Tommy, or Laurie for that matter. I understand why they're so fired up, and so that didn't bother me. I see now over the past couple months, people are coming around to Big John and Little John. I always liked them. I thought they were fun. I didn't think that this movie had a lot of comedy. I thought they took it to heart with what people said about the last one, having too much comedy. I feel like that was necessary comic relief. It didn't feel like it was overboard. It didn't feel like they were just doing too much. I felt like that was the right moment to give you a little comic relief because the movie had so little of it up to that point. So, but, you know, people are coming around to it. But some of the dialogue, it's really just centered around the hospital and the townies. It really is. That's the dialogue issues a lot of people have in this movie. I mean, there's some lines that don't necessarily land, like, this is for Dr. Loomis. Like, oh, Jesus. But, like, yeah, I can pick out a few, but I'm not watching the movie and finding every line delivery to be god-awful, because it's just not. It's just not. I thought JLC did great with her little material she had. Judy Greer was way better in this movie. Andy Matichik was way better in this movie. Charles Cyphers has a couple lines that are just, oh, Jesus, why? But, like, again, I'm talking about, we're picking out pieces of dialogue, but it's not like you're watching the entire movie and feeling like, oh, man, wow, nobody in this movie can act or deliver lines. Because it just wasn't the case. It's just the bad ones really stand out. And I feel like go into this movie, like rewatch it and look at it from that lens of like, okay, let me just pay attention to the dialogue. And there's actually a lot of really good dialogue in it. So again, I feel like that is just overinflated. I really, really do. Also, this extended cut is fantastic. If you guys do not own the 4K, Blu-ray, DVD, whatever version you get, you've got to get it because this extended cut is fantastic. You get longer scenes of gore. You get a fantastic stalking scene of Lonnie in the Shape and the flashback. Should have never been cut out of the movie. It's one of the best scenes in the entire freaking movie, and it's only in the extended cut. So I feel like that is definitely something you guys need to check out if you haven't yet, because it actually made me appreciate the movie more. I think the extended cut is the superior version of the movie, aside from a scene or two that maybe didn't need to be added in, like the morgue in the hospital scene was just kind of over the top, like what? But whatever. Everything else it adds is great. People complain a lot about the gore too. You know, the gore is another thing. Oh, it's over the top. It's too gory. It's not realistic. I don't hear these same people complaining about the over the top gore in any other major franchise installment. There's over the top gore in Friday movies, in Nightmare movies, in Evil Dead 2013. Over the top, Hostel, Cabin Fever. Like, I can just keep going. Saw. I can keep going. Movies that have that aspect to them, and people doesn't work to the detriment of the film. But because it's Halloween, and because it's Michael Myers, and because not a lot of Halloween films have gone this far, it's to the detriment of the film. It's a problem. It's a negative. I just don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. One, the practical effects in this movie are great. Christopher Nelson is, he's the maestro. I mean, he needs no endorsement from me. The practical effects are fantastic. The blood is what it is. You got 10 pints of blood in your body. If you're getting cut all open, a lot of blood's coming out, I promise you. Is it different than what we've normally seen? Yeah, but you know what? Who cares? This movie was pitched to you and pitched to me and pitched to everyone as action-packed, relentless, gore-filled, kills galore, you name it. So what did you expect? They did not lie to you. They didn't hide it from you. They didn't, string you along and make you feel like you were going to get something that totally different than what you got. No, even the trailer was like, hey, guess what? A lot of people are going to die. It's going to be really gross. Cool. Cool. I mean, I had no issue with it. None. And I feel like that being the biggest reason for people being turned off by this movie. It's gross at parts. Believe me, if you're squeamish, if you don't like it and it's not your thing, I understand. But it's not poorly handled. It's not bad. It just may not be your taste. It may not be what you're familiar with your prototypical Halloween movie. I digress on that. I feel like they redeemed almost every character that I didn't care much for in 2018. Cameron, actually liked him in this movie. Had the best death scene, too. Allison, liked her in this movie. Thought she was given a little bit more to do. She was more believable. Karen, liked her in this movie. Given more to do. Hawkins, not killing him. And loved him in this movie again. They didn't give us any stupid Sartain twist. The only big, sore thumb sticking out from this movie is the hospital stuff. It's just, there's some of that stuff that's just really, it just doesn't fit with the flow of the movie in the middle portion of the movie. But there's some good that comes out of it. The Lorian Hawkins stuff is good. I actually think it's quite sad, the mental patient. I think that's actually really sad. I think it's overdone, and it does kind of end up being a little over the top. But I think that the genesis of it is sad. I think at its core, it is effective. They just kind of draw it out a little bit too much. I just feel like they took the criticisms that we gave them, and they said, okay, too much comedy? Got it. Okay, we want more kills? Got it. Okay, we hated some of these characters and they need to be redeemed? Got it. I feel like they did those things. I won't lie, Danny McBride still has issues writing dialogue. I told you, there's many lines of dialogue in this movie I'm not a fan of, but I really feel like it's the minority of lines. It's not the majority. I feel like people attacking Anthony Michael Hall's portrayal of Tommy Doyle as unrealistic or over the top is kind of unfair, because unless you lived what he lived, you don't really know how that is going to come across, how you would experience that and deal with it. But also, the acting was good. It was good. I thought his acting was fine. There's a lot of issues that people have with this movie that I feel like at face value, sure, you can say them and you can take them and run with them, but really think about it, really dig into it and be like, is it really that bad? I mean, this movie's not as good as Scream 2022. I will say that. That is a better movie, narratively and structurally. But this is not a bad movie. I feel like we as Halloween fans just have such high standards sometimes because we're always comparing everything to the original movie and not letting anything be its own thing and going in new directions, that when it does, we don't like it. I just don't agree with it. I don't agree with that train of thought. I hate it. And, I've been guilty of it myself over the years. And I've been doing my best since Halloween 2018 to change that part about me, because it's not fair to these new movies. Halloween 2018 was a movie that had an identity crisis. Halloween 2018 didn't know if it was Halloween 1978, Halloween H2O, or Halloween 2018 half the time. It didn't know if it was Laurie's movie, Michael's movie, and Allison's movie, Allison's friend's movie. It didn't know. It struggled with that and found its footing near the back half of the movie. This movie has its own tone. It has its own narrative. It is Michael's movie. period. Nobody else's. It's Michael's movie. And it delivers in spades in that way. I feel like it didn't struggle finding its tone. Its tone is there. Its tone is there throughout. If you don't like the tone, that's fine, but it's there throughout. So I guess the whole point of this video is to say, like, look, you can dislike a movie. You're entitled to that. That's totally fine. But I feel like some of the gripes with this movie are just kind of unfair and unwarranted, and feel like they should not hold as much weight to some as they do. If it's not your cup of tea, if it's not your preferred movie-going experience, totally fine. But I feel like I was given the movie I was told I was going to get. And I was cool with it. I was. And so, you know, I get a little passionate when I do these rants sometimes. And, you know, I don't cut these. These don't get edited down. This is literally just, I shoot from the hip. It's right off the cuff. It's how I feel. And I just talk about it. And you know, it's a movie that I feel like people are going to look back on when Halloween Ends comes out and appreciate it a lot more. I really do think they will. I really do think they're going to go back and look at it and be like, wow, that movie actually does earn its keep. The score's great. The atmosphere's fantastic. The cinematography's great. The acting pretty much all around is really good. The kills are awesome. Michael is awesome. What more could you want? The atmosphere, it's awesome. There's so much that they nail about this movie. And we as these purists and these perfectionists just want to pick apart sometimes. It's so unfair to the filmmakers in the movie. Just have a fun time, man. Just have a good time. I mean, are you really expecting an Oscar-winning movie in a long-running franchise as the 12th installment of that franchise? Are you... Come on, guys. Like, let's have fun. If a Jason movie was this over the top, Friday the 13th fans would enjoy it. You know, it's one of those things, guys. And that's the one I think of because a lot of Friday the 13th movies do toe this line. And some of them would have even more if the MPAA didn't cut them down. So, you know, I just feel like we need to kind of relax and get off our pedestals sometimes and literally just turn our brain off and have fun and enjoy a movie for the experience that it is. And if you just didn't like the experience because it wasn't for you, that's fine. But it doesn't mean it's a bad experience. It just might not have been for you, I guess. Yeah, Halloween Kills to me is a very fun movie. I think it's very solid. I think it's better than 2018. I think it does its own thing. And one of the best parts about this movie for me is the whole realization to Laurie when Hawkins tells her, this isn't about you. This has never been about you. You've been there by circumstance. This is about Michael. And I loved that because it was that harsh reality to Jamie Lee Curtis and to Laurie Strode as a character. This isn't about you. This is Michael's movie. This is Michael's story. You're just in his way. Which is something that a lot of us fans have wanted for the longest time. No, Michael doesn't need motive. Here it is, no motive. Oh, well, that's stupid. Come on. We can't have our cake and eat it too. And I feel like that in the fan base sometimes can just be very unfair to these movies and very unrealistic with their expectations. So, and I'm a diehard fan. I've got it's everywhere, okay? But I can be realistic and say, pipe down about the Halloween Kills discourse already. Pipe down. It's fun. It's exactly what they said it was going to be. If you don't like it, that's fine. But to criticize some of the things that I mentioned in this video that I feel like can easily be argued against as criticisms, I don't know what to tell you. I could have gone in depth. We could have had an hour discussion about this movie, but really just wanted to get this off my chest. I'm starting to wind down now and feel like I've stated my piece enough. So that's going to do it for this In Defense of Halloween Kills. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Again, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And this is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I am pulling out.